Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being here today. As I mentioned a few moments ago, my name is Jory and I am Nesterly's customer advocate. Today, I will be leading you through our virtual discussion group. I want to thank everyone for being here and for joining us for the first group of this series. These presentations are going to be anywhere from 30 to 45 minutes long and provide information about the chosen topic. We have two more groups happening in the near future that you can look forward to joining. The topics of those groups are going to be Home Sharing 101, the financial, social, and practical benefits of home sharing even during COVID, and hearing from a host. What is it like to home share during COVID-19? These conversations will provide an opportunity to hear how Nesterly has taken the extra steps for safe home sharing during COVID. And so, like I mentioned a few moments ago, we are recording this meeting. So if you don't want to be on camera, just turn your camera off now and be sure to be muted until we get to the question and answer portion. All right, let's get started. So today we are going to go over the different updates that we've made to Nesterly's home sharing agreement, taking the challenges that COVID-19 presents into consideration. So for those who may not know, our home sharing agreement is a customizable agreement between a host and a guest used to set rules and expectations for the home share. Today, we will also go over a new Nesterly developed survey tool called Harmony. Then we will open the discussion to a question and answer portion, and that will be the opportunity where if you've come prepared with questions or have a question from something that was shown over the presentation, that would be the time to ask. All right, let's get started. One of the most common questions that we've received over the past few months is Nesterly still open, or can I home share during COVID? And the answer is yes. For us, the importance of supporting aging in place, supplemental income, and connections between generations has never felt more important, which is why we've added new protocols and tools to help our host home share as safely as possible. So as I mentioned earlier, Nesterly's home share agreement is that document between the host and the guest, both complete and sign it prior to beginning a home share. This document acts as a lease and sets the expectations and rules, such as the dates of the home share, as well as other details like the monthly rent and any optional task exchange details. We are really excited to share with you now the updates that we've made with regards to COVID-19 and adding safety measures into that agreement. So first, we have our interview guide. With this interview guide, we really wanted to create a tool for our hosts to be able to ask questions you need to ask to make you feel comfortable before deciding to move forward and home share with somebody. We've updated this interview guide with COVID-specific questions to help hosts gauge compatibility. For example, hosts may use this interview guide to ask a potential guest, besides the one provided by Nesterly, do you have any specific guidelines for how you intend to keep clean and utilize ways in which we keep hygiene within the home? This, along with our Harmony survey, which I will get into a little later in the presentation, are ways in which you can feel more comfortable making that decision to home share. So Nesterly's home share agreement now includes CDC-informed health guidelines, as well as space for you to add guidelines that you'd want your housemate to follow. For example, if you as a host have a policy for outside visitors in the home share agreement would now allow for a space for you to write those exact rules and have those expectations shared with your guest prior to engaging in home sharing. Both the host and the guest must review the home sharing agreement prior to home sharing and must sign an agreement with what the home sharing agreement states. So we are encouraging everyone in our community to exercise the CDC's health and safety guidelines during COVID. You can find these compiled health and social distance guidelines outlined in our recommended list, And where you can find that list in its entirety is in our help center on nesterly.com. One of our recommendations includes keeping an open line of communication throughout the home share to make sure that these recommended practices are being followed. One example you'll also find is to wash your hands with soap and water for at least 20 seconds each time you enter and exit the home. To be sure to wash those hands again when you're preparing food, using a bathroom, or touching surfaces in any shared public space within the home. Additionally, if there are any new guidelines released by the CDC you would want for your housemate and you to follow, you always have the option of adding it to your published Nesterly listing, or once you decide to move forward and home share with a guest, you may add it in that home sharing agreement that we referred to a few moments ago. So, for hosts who may already be living with a housemate, or maybe who are just going to be beginning home sharing soon, we created a new conversation guide to help open the lines of communication within the home. These conversations can be tricky and maybe even uncomfortable sometimes. So, we really wanted to make sure that our hosts had the tools to have these conversations in a way that is helpful and can really get to the core of what each participant wants to know and how to ask to get that answer. So, for example, we suggest asking your guest, how can we minimize trips outside the home? Or, what is our plan of action in the event that there is an infection in our home? In this guide, we also offer helpful suggestions such as consider defining a quarantine area within the home if in the event a housemate does fall ill. Make sure that you have all the correct protective equipment like face masks, gloves, possibly a plastic liner already in your home in the event that somebody does fall ill. And also to make sure that both hosts and guests know where the nearest medical facility is and have an emergency number for either one of the housemates in the home in case that is necessary. So, we understand that things can be really unpredictable right now, and we want to make sure that we can support both our hosts and our guests through those moments. If you do need to change or cancel your home share because it has been directly affected by COVID-19, you can always let us know. You can give us a call, message us through our homepage, or send us an email detailing what may have happened and how it was directly affected by COVID, and we will absolutely work with you. So, I mentioned a little bit earlier that we do have different tools that we've created to help set you up for a successful home share. I'm super excited to share with you now Harmony. Harmony is a Nesterly developed survey that helps assess your daily activities and how they relate to a COVID-19 risk level. You might be thinking, how does this relate to home sharing? Or how is this maybe different from some of the other tools that I mentioned earlier? Well, you are about to find out. The Harmony Survey is a quick and easy way to understand how your day-to-day activities align with the potential for COVID-19 risk. If you do decide to go through the Harmony Survey, you'll answer some questions and receive a report that looks very similar to the example on the right side of the screen. As you can see from this report, the woman who took it, her name was Barb, and Barb falls into the bold category. You'll be able to see the risk level for different types of activities, as well as a risk score, which can again give you an idea of what that risk level may look like. As a host, what you'll be able to do with this information is fully up to you. You can ask potential guests to go through the survey and share their report with you. You can share your results with potential guests and see how both of your reports align to see if there would be a compatible match with the way that you're going about your day-to-day life. We do encourage our hosts to share whatever they feel comfortable sharing, and this could be a great way to get the conversation around activities in and out of the home to see if they meet both participants' comfort level, but particularly our host comfort level. And each individual takes the survey and chooses what they do with it and how to move forward. But this is really something that we're going to encourage people to use so that we can really see if there's a compatibility match, like I said, with those day-to-day activities. So I know that was rather quick, but we have now made it to our question and answer portion of our presentation. If you have a question about the material presented, I encourage you to unmute now and ask away. I will happily answer all of these questions to the best of my ability. But if your question does warrant maybe more information or a longer answer, I will absolutely make note and get back to you as soon as I possibly can. Does anyone have any questions currently?
Hello?
Hi, I can hear you. Who is it?
This is not a question. It's Mary Ann Casella. I just want you to know that the name under your face is Noel Marcus.
Oh, yes. No, I do know that.
When you said your name was Jory, you didn't look like the person who introduced themselves as Jory last time. So I was.
Oh, no, it's still me.
Okay.
Do you have any questions related to the material we just shared?
No, I think it's good that you have some more topics that can lead into guidelines, because it's one of the things that why I sort of dropped out, because I was afraid of having a stranger in and being able to say, is it okay with you if you can't bring guests in the house during the COVID thing, things like that. But the one thing that I get nervous about here even is, because this is all done on the local level. I mean, there hasn't been federal rules up to now, and I don't know if they're going to come or not. But I live in Boston, and Cambridge is 3 miles away across the river.
Mm-hmm.
And we have different rules. Restaurants can be open in Cambridge, but not in Boston. So I think that's probably going to sound very strange to people who come from other countries that have more of a top-down rulemaking procedure.
Sure. So I just want to make sure I understand kind of the question or concern, rather, is that, how can you, I guess, have the certain rules that apply in Boston or in Cambridge and make sure that the guest is following them? Is that kind of where the question was?
Yeah, like I don't know if any of these guests know other guests from other countries and stuff, but usually they have some way of meeting up at some time if they have questions about things. And they might open up more to other people who are visiting than to the home they're living in.
Mm-hmm.
And it might be confusing if I tell my student they shouldn't go in a restaurant. And then, but their friend is staying across the river 3 miles away, and they can go to a restaurant.
Sure, I see.
It's just finding a way to communicate that, even though it's different rules in different places. A lot of people in the places with less strict rules decide to make their own rules more strict.
Sure.
So about being at risk.
I can definitely speak to that a little bit. I think ultimately what we really want each host to know is that it's your home share, so it's your rules. If you write out, possibly in the home share agreement or when you are having these conversations with potential guests, stating that it's not okay to live in this home and also be going out to eating in restaurants. It doesn't matter if you're in Boston, Cambridge, whatever it may be. It would sound like one of the rules for your home share would be sure that there would be no dining outside, not outside, but no dining in a restaurant. That's something that it sounds like it's something that doesn't make you feel safe. And therefore, we would absolutely encourage you to outline that in your home share agreement. And also, before you even got to that point, to outline that in a conversation that you would have with this potential guest prior to move-in, so that they know that expectation and that rule is already set in place.
Well, I think the point that I was trying to make was it's easier to tell your guests that they shouldn't go eat in a restaurant if that's the local rule, but it might be harder to express that rule if the area is allowed to do it.
Absolutely. I can understand that. But again, I would always reference back to your home sharing agreement because that does act as a lease between the two of you. And I would, of course, always refer again to the conversations you would have had prior to home sharing. You might speak with someone who says, that's not going to work with me. I want to go out to restaurants. I want to go, to a yoga class, whatever it might be. You have the right and the ability to say that's just not going to work with me in my house. So we really do want to encourage you to have your rules and have them set and not necessarily have to bend on them.
I know if I was traveling someplace, that's how I get to know a place is to be out on the street as much as possible and in restaurants and bookstores and everything.
Sure. Absolutely. Now is a very unique time, especially for students or maybe young professionals. A lot of what was available, last year or a few months ago just isn't necessarily available now. So again, I would really just stress that, it wouldn't be permissible if somebody was living in their home with you.
Okay. Thank you.
Of course. Thank you, Marianne. Does anyone else have a question? And if you do, you can just unmute and I'm happy to take them. I'll wait another maybe minute or so to see if anyone, even if it's not a question, a comment, or an inquiry, we're happy to, have a real discussion.
I have a question.
Sure.
So the Harmony survey, can you just explain a little bit more about like what types of questions are asked in that survey?
Sure. So the different types of questions that would be asked might be something like, have you traveled recently? Might be asking a little bit if you are high risk for certain illnesses. It would ask, have you gone to the hair salon? Have you gone to a event with more than a certain amount of people, in the past 2 weeks? So really trying to gauge a little bit of an understanding of what you do, how you travel, the amount of people that you're coming in contact with over a certain period of time to really understand really try to understand what type of risk level you may have with regards to COVID-19.
Thank you.
Of course. Anyone else? Well, if no one else has any questions or comments, I do want to let you know that you can always give us a call, always send us an email if you do have any questions or concerns. I really do want to mention that, when you do reach out to us, if there is ever a question you have about someone who's reached out to you, or if, you do decide to home share with someone and there is an issue, even if it seems really small, we always encourage you to reach out to our support team. We are here to help with all of those different issues, any questions you may have, and really to make sure that you as a host feel supported throughout the home share process from the very beginning to the very end. So I do want to thank everyone for coming. I hope this was informal in some way. Not informal, informational and helpful. And we will be sending this PowerPoint around so you can go through the links and see if there's anything that you might have a question about or anything that might be helpful when you do decide to move forward to home share. So thank you all very much. And
Sorry, I didn't think of it fast enough, but
oh,
I have another question. How,
absolutely.
how has COVID affected the type of guest you're getting? I
Sure,
assume it's
that's
a
a great
drop off in the number of people who are traveling But
Mhm.
what about, are you getting more older students, or are, younger students, or what?
Absolutely. So I would say that we definitely have less students who are traveling, from different states or from abroad. However, we do have a lot of students who are maybe a little bit more local or who are able to travel via car instead of something like an airplane. We have a variety of different types of people. We do have some you know, mid career people, young professionals. We have people who are just beginning internships or even things like medical residencies. Really, people who are looking for, a place to stay for anywhere from, a few months to a year, where they would need to be in the greater Boston area for that amount of time.